So I'm Molly, also known as Molly Pukes. I do comics, cartoons, animation, and illustrations from Yorkshire. And I like to focus on whimsy narratives and silly stuff. So I grew up in Harrogate and I was a fine artist. And then I wanted to go into animation. So I worked in animation for a couple of years after doing a degree. And then I transitioned into comics because I found the media more expressive for what I would want to do with my work. And also I like the community. So I went from volunteering at Thought Bubble to having a stall. And this is my third year having a stall, I think. This is one of my favorite things I've designed, which is a pigeon with boots. And she's been flying off. She came to roost a day after last year's Thought Bubble. So she was meant to be here last year, but she wasn't. And then recently I've designed these cards, which have been popular. This one's specifically for accidentally having a second child or having a second child at all. I published this a couple of years ago. It's a collection of several years of my diary comic that I've been making since I went from doing animation to comics. So something I've got new this year is a little mini comic about On the Prowl, which is a comic about a group of women who take off their skin after work and become feral wildcats, drinking and smoking and having a nice time together in a Yorkshire pub. It's all about cathartic, gross out humor amongst women that doesn't rely on sex jokes. And then this year I'm part of an anthology collective where there's 13 of us here today that have little mini comics about little guys. So some of them are really emotional, some of them are daft. Mine's just full of hits and shit. So people can find me at mollypukes.com or I'm at mollypukes on everything online.
My name is James Lawrence. I am a cartoonist and lecturer based in Leeds. My main output is this series here, The Legend of La Mariposa. It's a lucha libre, action, comedy, fantasy, adventure series sitting in the vein of kind of classic adventure stories like Conan the Barbarian, Asterix, that kind of thing. Also fresh this weekend, part of the Greb anthology, which is the anthology of weird little guys. 13 stories kind of connected by just being kind of funny and chaotic and about a horrible little guy, whether that is a mutant skateboarder or a gnome chef or a trio of thieves in training. So it's actually put together by my friend Mark, my table neighbor here, and I think 12 out of 13 contributors are actually at the fair. Really what it was is I read comics my whole life kind of thing, but I had this really sort of limited idea of how you can make comics and who was allowed to make comics, because I grew up reading Marvel. So I thought to make Marvel comics you had to live in New York and you had to have a team of 7 people, because you only had to do pencils and another person had to do inks and all that kind of stuff. And then I went to uni and I discovered kind of indie comics. This is during the sort of the Oni Press indie boom of the early 2000s. And this coincided with sort of the advent of sort of live journal blogs and everything on the internet, where all of a sudden you had insight into the lives of artists who are making books entirely by themselves. And you can really see the hand of the artist in them. They were a little bit rougher, a little bit less polished, but still really appealing. And then all of a sudden it became this achievable goal. And then I was well, these guys seem a lot like me based on what I see on their live journals or whatever, or on their blogs. There's no reason why, if they're like me, there's no reason why I can't do it too. And then I just kind of started doing it and didn't really look back. I've lost count of how many times I've done it. I've been exhibiting at Thought Bubble since it was at the Armories in Leeds. So however long ago that was, that's going to be 7 or 8 years by now. I guess the most popular one it's always the newest one. It's the most popular one. So the most popular one I have here at the moment is The Sweetest Crime by The Legend of La Mariposa. It is about 60, 70 odd pages, I think. It's about the main character of the series, but it's kind of like a flashback story to when she was a kid in school, about 8 or 9. And it's a bit of a sort of a Scooby-Doo style chase caper. Yeah, I'm really proud of it because it's just it came out really nice. I got to try a bunch of different sort of storytelling techniques in it. It's my first kind of time doing a real sort of ensemble book, because there's multiple characters in there. So I got to kind of play with that. It got nominated for an Ignatz Award for Outstanding Online Comic last year. which is pretty cool. Because what I tend to do with these comics, I tend to serialize them like online, just on like a Tumblr before I collect them into a book, just so people can see what I'm doing. Although I do think that my story that I've done in Grebbed is in La Mariposa related. It's called Waster. It's about a post-apocalyptic skateboarder. I think that's actually some of the finest work I've done so far across 8 pages. I love that this place is so big and yet it's so independent. It would be so easy for this place to be about quote-unquote pop culture, where you throw every possible thing under the map and you wind up with something that's like the San Diego Comic Con or something like that, where it kind of becomes this huge kind of like very sort of capitalistic marketing exercise with sort of like the art and the artist being almost secondary. I love that Thought Bubble has grown to such a size and it's never lost that. It's never lost this kind of like independent spirit. They let people in who have been making books for a decade, and they let people in who are making their first book that year, and they're on an even keel. They're right next to each other. There's no hierarchy going on here. That's one of my favorite things about this place, is it's really sort of egalitarian. I'm not very good at social media. I have an Instagram and I have a Blue Sky account, and they're both under King Friday Joe. And then I also have a big cartel, which is long live La Mariposa, .bigcartel.com.
I'm Aiden Cosmo. I just go by Piero online. I'm largely an illustrator, zine maker, and comic maker. Do a lot of risograph stuff, so I run a risograph printing press down in London as well, called Inkstock Press. I think I've always done art in some way. I know when I was 10, I wanted to be a comic artist. I was really inspired by manga specifically, and I really wanted to be a mangaka. And then I was like, wait, actually Western comics exist as well. I remember I got into Nimona when I first moved to the UK in 2015. And that was the first moment that I had where I was like, oh, we can make really cool independent comics that actually feel like me. There's a whole life and career in that. So I think that moment was when I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. This art is my life. Yes, I exhibited last year for the first time. I'd applied a few years before, but last year was our first time getting it. It's been really good. Thought Bubble is always so fun, and I always really love it. Everyone is so nice, and I don't live in Leeds anymore, so it's also a really nice way to meet so many people that I already know and get on with really well, that I only get to see during Thought Bubble and when I'm up here very rarely. And I feel it's such a nice way to connect with the comic scene, especially, and lots of really cool illustrators and zine makers and comic artists. I do these little print sets that I really love, and they usually do really well. I do sets of 4 and different colors. One is 3 color, this is a 2 color. I also do a lot of badges. I've started doing these really big ones, which I really love. I got a really big badge maker just for these. And my keychain also relatively good seller, especially any of the kind of fandom-y ones do pretty well. Same with these 2 prints. I like to use big A3 prints to advertise to people that hey, I make this kind of content as well, not just my original stuff. So those do pretty well. In comparison to last year, almost everything other than the keychain are really, really new. I only really got into risograph in this last year. So that was when I've now brought all of this in. Particularly, I've lots more zines. I made this one really recently. It's called Motawalia, and it's a zine about how I feel about Ireland and that being where I'm from, but also not having lived there for a decade, and the complicated emotions I have about where I want to live in the future and what it means to find home. And I have it's a mixed media. So I've done lots of collage and drawing alongside it. And it's also risograph. It's a 2 color riso. It's all in Irish because I grew up speaking Irish in my school, and it's super rudimentary Irish, but I want it to be from me specifically and not doing better, finding better Irish speaking. And so I'm really happy with that. And that's probably my newest release out of everything. Probably connecting with other people. It's really nice, obviously, to sell my work and to feel I'm making it as an artist, especially as a younger person, I think. And I've only been graduated for 2-3 years at this point. So it can always feel a bit wishy-washy in those first 5 years. Really connecting with other artists and going to people's tables and building a community is so important to me. And it really feels we do that at Thought Bubble every year. And everyone's so kind and so nice. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as @Piero, which is PIIERROTE. Instagram, I'm on Tumblr, my website is just that.com. And then my Instagram printing press is inkstar.press, and that's on Instagram and my website as well.
Hi, I'm Dominque Duong. I'm an illustrator and comic artist, and I create queer fantasy, romance, horror, and autobio comics as well, and zines too. I've always been drawing throughout my life, to be honest, and my mum was an animator, so she really encouraged my love for art and drawing as well. But originally I wanted to be a concept artist. I did do that for a while at a mobile game studio, and then realized that game wasn't really for me, to be honest. I don't like working in 3D, and so I reverted back to I decided to go back to illustration, and because I already loved reading comics and I like writing stories, that became sort of a natural extension to go into comics as well. Yes, one time, I think maybe 2021, not too sure about the year. It was a few years ago anyway, so this is my second time being here. I'd say this is probably my favorite comic I've done, The Dog and the Cat, which I made during the lockdown because, well, why not? I was working at the time, but we're all stuck at home, so I thought might as well work on something. And it's quite near and dear to my heart because it's inspired by the Chinese zodiac myth and the sort of lesser known story of the cat. The cat was tricked out of being in the zodiac by the rat. My story sort of takes the what if of what happens to the cat afterwards, how did she deal with the betrayal, and it's about her learning to trust others again, and it becomes a queer romance story as well. And I'm half Chinese, so it's very near and dear to my culture and my family's traditions and such. So I really love the story even years afterwards. So this is my newest comic this year. It's an autobio comic, and it's a bit more conceptual than what I've normally done before. It's exploring my relationship with anger, the struggles with expressing it, and also the sort of repressing of it as well. Because I feel like as an Asian woman, it's very discouraged to sometimes to be to express your anger, or to be rough or unladylike and that sort of thing. So it's just sort of exploring my relationship with that. So I'm on kind of on a lot of the social media platforms, because social media is a hellscape and it's all kind of going up and down. So, the main ones I'm on are Instagram and Blue Sky. I'm also on Tumblr and Facebook, but Instagram and Blue Sky are the main ones I'm on, Dominque Duong Art.
A cure for the air conditioner.
So I'm Nathan Hill. I'm an illustrator, comic maker. I do all sorts of things. I have a web comic that I do, and then I also do loads of stuff about food and food scenes, and then also some books on D&D. I guess I've always been creative. I think since I was little, I always wanted to make something. I think I originally wanted to be a writer, but then I got into drawing, and then I went to uni. Not that I needed to for the art stuff. Yeah, and I've been doing comic-cons since I left uni, really, which was scarily close to 10 years ago. Yes, actually, I did exhibit at university. I convinced my lecturers to fund a table, and we did a student work table. Wasn't that successful, but I've tried to go to football every year since, and I've been pretty consistent for the past 5 or so years. My food zines are pretty popular. These are little food guides. The idea is it's just loads of food from that culture, and then there's space to fill it out when you try it, sort of thing. So it makes it sound like a really nice food diary. The other one that sells well are those. They're basically loads of nights I made. I've given them D&D stat sheets. So loads of the D&D nerds like to use them for NPC characters. So I have a webcomic that I do weekly. I've been doing it for the past 4 or 5 years, and I recently bit the bullet and got the first chapter printed. I think just everyone here is lovely, all the exhibitors and the people who come to the tables to look at my stuff. So I have an Instagram, I have the webcomic, I have a Blue Sky as well. I'm very bad at posting on social media, but those are the places you most likely find me.